Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Tish Talks with Judge Shequitta Kelly. Tonight is going to be amazing. I am going to start by just simply reading off her amazing bio, and then we are going to jump right into it. So, Judge Shaquita Kelly was born and raised in Michigan City, Indiana. In 1999, she graduated as a first generation college student from Indiana University with a dual bachelor's degree in criminal justice and psychology. Later in 2003, she continued her studies to earn her law degree. Judge Kelly subsequently joined the Indiana Allen County Prosecutor's Office, where she prosecuted domestic violence cases. She served as the felony domestic violence intake prosecutor for over 6 years. Her experience led her to Dallas, Texas, where she received her Texas law license and joined the Dallas County District's Attorney Office. In January 2015, she was sworn in as the presiding judge of Dallas County Criminal Court Number 11, which is one of the two family violence specialty courts. Throughout her career, Judge Kelly has attended various courses on domestic violence, spoken at national conferences, and been an active member in several professional organizations, including Whittington, Whittington Home Shelter, Literacy Alliance, NAACP, and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, MDA chapter. In addition, these organizations, in addition to these organizations, she has also been a member of JL Turner Legal Association, Urban League Dallas Association, North Dallas, Texas, Democratic Women, Irving Democratic Women, and National Action Networks. Hopefully, I captured all that. I just started reading y'all. But welcome, Judge Shaquita Kelly.
Thank you.
I had the pleasure of having you on as a panelist speaker. Man, what was it? 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
It's about 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Time flies when you're having fun. So I am always blessed and grateful when you are able to just grace me. So thank you, thank you, thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Y'all heard Delta Sigma Theta, right? I just want to make sure y'all caught that, right? Because I was reading.
Right.
So welcome to another episode of Tish Talks. Tish Talks is really an open dialogue where we are able to pour into those that have experienced trauma, right? And so those folks that have come to us to say, man, you don't look like the things that you've been through. You all see what you see today, right? The version that you don't see what it took for us to get here. So you don't know the work that it took. And so this is an opportunity for us to have some real open dialogue in an effort to pour into you, in an effort so that you can see that for those that might be struggling, right? This story will align to yours in some fashion or another. So I will open it up and just ask, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. I'm feeling good. I'm blessed. Life is good. I can't complain.
I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna just start with, again, this is open dialogue. I always say it's informal. Tell us a little bit about just yourself.
Okay. So right now, as you said, I'm the current presiding judge of County Criminal Court Number 11. That court is specifically for domestic violence cases. So any violence in the home, they come to see me. I am married. I have 3 kids, 2 love childs through my marriage and one of my own. And a little dog, 5-pound dog named Paris.
I see her.
She has more friends than I do.
I'm like, this is a whole grown adult.
Yes. Let's see. I am in Dallas. I've been in Dallas since 2009. I came here from Indiana because I was just tired of the cold weather. And I was single, and in the community that I lived in, I didn't see any dating potential. And I was like, I want me a husband. So I'm going to the South and find me a Southern brother.
Yeah, I had to do that too.
See? So that's how I ended up here. For fun, I like to do yoga. I meditate to keep my mental health intact and love traveling and shopping and all that good stuff. So that's just a little bit about me.
Okay. For y'all that at some point I'm gonna need y'all to follow her, just if for nothing else for them Christmas pictures, like for them holiday pictures. Let me tell, and I know I'm not the only one that says we look forward to those pictures. But I know I'm not the only one because when them pictures come up, I be like, hold up, this is a bad picture. This it's so bad, Queen, that I the one in the door, the yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
one.
Yeah. People love that one this year. They was
Right.
like, that one's
Right.
dope.
Yeah, that one is hot. That's a hot picture. So yes, I'm gonna need y'all to get your life and follow her. Follow her.
Yes, follow
But
me, Shequitta Kelly on Facebook and Judge Shequitta Kelly on
yes,
Instagram.
yes. And don't forget TikTok, because I didn't see you on TikTok.
Yeah, you know what? I just started my TikTok account like a little bit over a month and a half, almost two
Yeah.
months, and I'm
Yeah.
at 13,000 followers
I
that quick.
believe it. Your content is amazing. So
Yes,
I'm not even
people
surprised.
love it.
I'm not
People
even
love it.
surprised.
I was surprised. I didn't realize that people really wanted to know so much about a judge, and now they're just like, "We love it. Please give us more."
But it's not just that you're a judge. I think it's the fact that you are true, just the authenticity that they see. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just the day to day, oh, she's a judge out of Dallas. You are a black judge, right? You are
Mm-hmm.
doing amazing things, and we don't see the female black attorneys and judges. And so it's just, I think that is the other thing that draws people into your
Mm-hmm.
content. And so
Mm-hmm.
look, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not surprised at all.
Well, I'm
So
glad you follow me.
I always say your story is amazing, your background is amazing. To see you in action, to see how you pour into others. Talk to us a little bit about that, how that started, your journey a little bit.
So, I came from really rocky, humble beginnings. I was
Mm,
raised in a very religious family, Pentecostal, and my grandfather was
mm,
a Pentecostal pastor. For those who don't know, Pentecostal are, well, used to be the ladies who wear the skirts with the tennis shoes. That was me. That was my entire
wow.
family, and so it's a very strict religion. And that really, honestly, back then I didn't like it, but it really got me where I am. It was my
Yes.
foundation to leap off of. But my father was murdered when I was almost 5. And so I have
Mm,
my memory of my father is looking at him in his casket. That
wow.
memory, I cannot get it out of my head because my mom picked me up and held me over the casket so I could see him. And I still see his face. I still see his face laying in that casket. So that is how, that was like one of my first memories that when you think about your childhood memories, mine is my dad laying in his casket dead. Um, so
Wow.
it started that way. And then my mom remarried and she married a gentleman that was addicted to cocaine.
Mm,
And although we started off being very wealthy because he was a chef and making
mm,
really good money, that quickly changed because that habit is expensive. Cocaine addiction is
yeah.
so much more expensive than a crack addiction.
Wow.
So my mom ended up getting wrapped up in the addiction too. By the time she finally decided to leave him, she became addicted herself. And that caused a lot of trauma for me and my sister because she was absent. She was absent, which resulted in me looking for love in the wrong place. So you got to think about it. My grandfather is a pastor. He's the only father figure that I had in my life.
Mm,
And at the same time, he was also very old school. So he was one of those, I'm not going to tell you I love you. I'm going to show you I love you.
yeah.
But for a little girl who doesn't have a father, I probably needed to hear him say that.
Yeah.
Right. I always felt loved by my grandfather, and today he is still my hero.
Mm,
And I don't know if I will ever stop making him my hero. Like, I just love that man.
yeah.
But I do think I needed a little bit more embracing,
Yeah.
considering the fact that my mom was absent and my dad was dead and my grandpa was just all about church.
Yeah.
So I ended up this little boy at school. I was 14 when I met him, and I fell in love with him. I thought I was
Mm,
going to marry him. I thought it was just this void, this gaping
yeah.
hole that I
Yeah.
had. And he said everything. His mom was addicted to drugs too, and so we had something in common.
No.
And so he said everything that I needed to hear. And before I knew it, I had given him myself. And by 15, I was pregnant. So we
Wow.
already were poor. You know, when my stepfather was in our house, he stole everything, he pawned everything. You know, I went to school living a lie because I
Yeah.
would walk into that school and I made up whatever story I wanted my life to look like. I made it up. And so people later, as I became an adult, and they find out, like, what? This was your, yeah, I had a very traumatic life. I just lived a fairy tale. And that's how I got through, right? Between
Mm,
that and God. And at some point, to be honest, I didn't really like God. I was
mm,
mad at him.
yeah.
You know, I always believed in him, but I was mad at him because I said, why would you bring me to this earth to just hurt me?
Mm,
To just hurt me, starting with my dad to my mom. And in between that, there was some child abuse, some sexual molestation. Like there was just so much for this one little body
yeah.
who didn't even ask to be here to have to
Yeah.
suffer through. So what I didn't know then that I know now was that that journey was the springboard to
Mm,
my purpose in life.
mm,
It catapulted me to who I am today
yeah.
because I literally have been through everything.
Yeah.
You know, I've lost a parent. I've been abused. I've had drugs in my life. I've had a daughter at the age when I was still a kid. You know, all
Yeah.
the things that normally one person experiences one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You've experienced it all.
Had them all. Just throw it all in. You know, God was creating me. He was like, give her a little bit more of that.
You can
Give
take
her a
it.
little bit
You
more
can take
trauma.
it. Wow. Wow.
So, and of course, you know, at one point I just was so low. This is before I had my daughter, before I got pregnant. And I was just like, do you hate me, God?
Mm,
You know, do you hate me? Because I don't know why I'm here. I don't feel loved. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel loved by anyone.
yeah.
And that's a very, very empty, lonely place to be,
It is.
you know?
Absolutely. Wow.
So, um, yeah, that's a little, a little bit of my journey that, like I said, was a springboard to get me to where
Yeah.
I am today.
I knew a little bit of your journey, but I didn't even know that, right? Even when you came and you spoke, I didn't know that. And to hear it, um, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sure, you get that a lot. I want to go back because you said at 5 years old, you remember, you have that memory etched in your brain. It's interesting because, I have a 6 and an 8-year-old, and I wonder what things they will remember even at this age. And so it is always, I always learn and glean from what others say, at this
Mhm.
age of, all right, what will you remember? Right.
Mhm.
And the fact that you have been through so much, yet you are still standing, right? And I
Mhm.
say that you are still standing. And if it's nothing else, it's being able to hear your story, and for that young lady that's struggling, for that woman that's struggling with, man, God, why did you put this on me? I can't take it. You're still
Mhm.
standing, right? And a lot of times I think we minimize what women have gone through. Oh, that's, you went through so much. That's not my story. I can't really complain about what I've been through.
Mhm.
Yeah. But talk
Mhm.
to that person about, but it's still your story. Right.
Right. You know, just because I went through maybe so much more than the next, female doesn't mean that their walk hasn't been a journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? We all have a journey. And at some point, you don't even know what to do. You're just like
Mhm.
drowning in that journey.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it might look different from everyone, right?
Yep.
Um, it could be someone's journey could just be battling cancer,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I never had to deal with that, but that's difficult.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't want you to say, well, I shouldn't complain. This is what I went to therapy for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And one of the
Normalize
things,
therapy, right? At one point, people were afraid to say, "Oh, I've gone through therapy."
right. Well, especially coming from a Pentecostal
Yeah.
household, that
Hmm.
you don't go to therapy, you go to God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had to
Right.
unlearn that. right? Like
Wow.
there's so much unlearning that I had to do. But during therapy, my therapist picked up on my minimizing my pain.
Mm,
And she said, I feel like you don't want to express your true pain and just sitting in that, being okay with feeling bad. She said, because you feel like it means you're not grateful.
wow.
And she said, um, just because there's homeless people who don't have food to eat, that doesn't mean you can't eat. She's like, and you should be able to eat and not feel guilty that you're eating. And so I was like, wow. She was like, it doesn't mean that you don't care about homeless people.
Mm,
It just means that you're you're living your life, right? Your true
yeah,
version of yourself. And so she said, so I want you to stop, because I guess every time I would say something, I'd be like, well, but I'm still here. I'm still
yeah,
living. God bless me with this. God bless me with
yeah.
that. She said, I want you to be okay with just not liking what happened to you.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and I never thought about that. And so we don't have to minimize, well, I know this judge, she went through way worse than me, and so I
Yeah,
shouldn't complain. It's okay to be upset. It's
yeah,
okay
yeah,
to not like what you're going through at the moment.
yeah, yeah.
I had a friend who lost a child, and she was kind of beating up on herself because there were women who had lost more children than her. And she
Mm,
was sitting in a group and she was like, well, I only lost one. I'm in a group with a lady who's lost, 4 kids. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you still
right,
can't hurt.
right.
No. And so I would just say to the sisters out there who have heard my testimony, it does not minimize yours in any way, shape, or form. It does not mean that your journey is not just as important as mine, and your
Yeah,
pain doesn't hurt just as much as mine.
yeah.
Suffering is suffering,
It is.
and it always seems like the worst suffering to the person who's doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, oh, my suffering is so bad. It doesn't mean your suffering ain't bad to you
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Suffering is suffering.
It's suffering, right?
Yeah. So that's what I would say to those women who I don't want you to compare your story with mine. I want you to live in yours
Yeah,
fully.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say it will require something from us, right? It requires us to sit in it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we try and fill in the gaps, like you said, right? We find something, oh, but it's not like that. Sit in it. You got to
Mm-hmm.
go through it in order to come through on the other side. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a thing that we struggle with the most is being able to sit still, and I had to come to that realization myself recently where my husband would be like, just sit down. Why you always feel like you got to be on the go? Right. And I was able to have you ever been in a situation where you knew what you needed and wanted to say, but you couldn't fully articulate it in that moment? You had to just
Mm-hmm.
process it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I feel like I missed a lot as a child, right? I couldn't afford to go on vacations. My first trip to Disney and on vacation was with my own kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I feel like I am trying to do the things that I missed out on. And he said, is it really? And when I sat back, I then said, all right, Latisha, is it that you're afraid to sit still? Are you then, because then you have to process things and then you have to
Mm-hmm.
realize, all right, this is the reason that you are in this space and in this moment, right? And so it's
Mm-hmm.
being okay with not being okay and being okay with sitting still and sitting in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Absolutely.
sometimes when you sit in it and when you are in stillness or in solitude,
Mm,
that is when you can hear
it
the best.
is
That's when you can
clarity.
hear the best clearly, yeah. And I've had that. I've sat in solitude for 4 days,
Mm,
and it was very difficult, but I finally got to meet the most secret inner part depth of myself,
man, 4
and I
days.
was like, yeah, it was tough. And I wouldn't recommend it. First of all, let me say I'm not gonna recommend it to everybody. Let me put that out. Don't y'all leave this conversation and be like, I'm going into solitude
I
for
was
4
going
days.
to, right, because I was about to be like, let me see what I can do. So,
It was very challenging. Very
mm,
challenging. And this is after me having years of therapy. I just decided that I wanted to sit in solitude, take away the noise from the world, and find the part of me I never met.
hmm,
And, when I first decided to do it, I was just like all happy about it. And I was excited. I'm like, yeah, I get to shut off the world. Yeah, I ain't got to respond to no work or no family, blah, blah, blah. I was all hot and hyped myself up. Right. And the first day was just like that. I was like, ooh, yeah, I could sleep. I could just,
Right.
and that second day, and especially that third day, took the wind out of me.
Was this in your adult kind of after marriage? Was this
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah. Yes.
wow.
This is after marriage in my adult life, and I'm going to do it again. I think I'm going to do it in March. But
Mm,
I wouldn't. If you haven't had therapy and you
yeah,
still are dealing with a lot of trauma, you might want to get through therapy first. And I
yeah,
mean, it's not easy. It's
yeah,
not easy, and
yeah.
so,
A lot
but
of
it
uncovering.
yes, a lot of stuff comes, and things came to me during trauma that luckily I had already had therapy about,
Mm,
and so I was able to deal with those emotions and those things that were coming out that I had completely forgot about. Because that's another thing.
wow.
So when you're busy all the time,
Yeah.
your brain protects and only saves what it needs to know in the moment. And so
Mm,
it also has a protective mechanism where it will repress certain memories. So I learned when I was prosecuting child abuse cases that some of my babies couldn't remember what happened, like little details. And that's God's gift, right? It's the way to
yeah,
protect your brain to
absolutely.
just shut stuff off. But when
Absolutely.
you're in solitude, sometimes those things come back
Mm,
because you have nothing distracting your brain. No noise, no TV, no to-dos, nothing. And you
just
just
being.
sit in yourself and
Wow.
you get to meet another part of yourself.
Wow.
I met another part of Shequitta that I never knew she was there. And that was that was difficult.
Wow. Thank you for that. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that. Again, we let me repeat what she just said. Do not end this and think that, oh, I'm gonna go and do that, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not easy. And it's not one of those things, like you said, right? It's not that I don't have a TV and I'm not, you are sitting in silence and you're sitting still. You're forced to just be still, right? And be. And that is difficult, especially if you haven't gone through the process of really
Mhm.
being able to uncover all of those things that
Yes.
you're needing in order to find who you really are and who you really need to be.
Yes.
Man.
So you have to be honest with yourself. And honestly, I don't know too many people in my life right now that I recommend it to.
Hmm.
Not
Oh,
too many people. Yeah. And like I said, I started therapy in 2005 and I stopped therapy in 2019.
hmm.
So what's that? That's like
Like,
14 years
yeah.
or so,
Wow.
right? So I had the tools, I
Yeah.
had the
Yeah.
tools while I was out there.
Yeah.
But even with someone with all that therapy and tools, and I was still just kind of like that day, that third day was very difficult.
Yeah.
I was wide open. I was wide open and I heard I shared every memory, every painful thing, every thought. I found strength. There's just a lot that was out there. When I was out in solitude, I was in the woods. I was in a
Oh,
cabin. And so
okay.
I was literally in solitude, but it
Yeah.
was an
Yeah.
amazing experience.
Yeah.
And for those who think that they're emotionally and mentally stable and prepared to do that, then it's very rewarding. But it was
Wow.
not easy. And it's not fun either, like I thought it was.
Yeah, I know, right? Look, I might need to talk to you afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. We'll talk about that.
I need to
Yes.
talk to you about that experience. So, what does, when you talk about just the things that you've been through, where you are today, what does forgiveness look like for you now? Thinking about those that have hurt you, thinking about, just you had to relearn who you were, right? What did forgiveness, because I'm going to assume that that required you to forgive some people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's multidimensional for me. For me, forgiveness was also exhaustion.
Mm.
You
Okay.
know, Holding on to all of that was exhausting for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I was just tired of thinking about it, tired of being angry.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be done with it, right?
Yeah.
So the hard thing for me was I expected an apology.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be done, but I couldn't be done until my mom apologized, and I
Yeah.
couldn't be done until my abuser apologized. And
Yeah.
I sought after those apologies for a while, and my mom couldn't remember a lot because she was in her substance abuse. So she's like, "What? I did what? No, And it was hard for her to come to terms with the hurtful things I was saying that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
My abuser was just like avoiding me altogether.
Yeah.
So I had to decide, one, I have to forgive myself for holding so much of it and taking ownership of it.
Yeah.
I kept considering myself the victim and blaming myself for a lot that happened,
Yeah.
even though we know that a child is not to be blamed for the molestation or abuse that they suffer.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, I thought of, well, I should have told, well, I should have ran, well, I should
Mm-hmm.
have this, I should have that. And you're blaming yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
With my mom, it was like, well, perhaps I just could have loved her a little bit more. Maybe I shouldn't have went out and been getting pregnant. And it's just blaming yourself. And I finally decided, I forgive you, and it's not your fault. I forgive you for blaming yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. And I had to stop taking ownership over other people's actions.
Say that one more time.
I had to stop taking ownership over
Yeah.
other people's actions.
Yes. Yes.
And that was the first thing I recognized, that I'm taking ownership of what they did to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not going to continue to be a victim in this situation. I'm about to be a victor, right? I heard someone, I think it might have been TD Jakes, who casually said that. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to be a victor in this situation.
Yeah.
And so for me, that meant healing on my own without an apology, which I have ever, you're raised like, if someone does you wrong, they apologize. Or if you do something wrong, you apologize. You make amends and you never do it again. Like, there's like 5 stages of forgiveness.
Yes.
You're supposed to get that apology. And now as an adult, they're like, no. You gotta figure out how to get through this on your own, which requires a lot of strength. So forgiveness requires a lot of strength too. That's why I say it's multi-dimensional.
Yes.
And so I was exhausted. I was exhausted with taking it, carrying it. I did not want to be a victim anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a victor of the situation. And I finally just learned my own strength.
Yeah.
Like, I realized that they had controlled enough of the narrative.
Yes. Yes.
That now I was taking control over it. And so I decided, I was like, I prayed about it and I said, the hardest thing was to forgive my abuser. Because for my mom, I can understand she got caught up, right?
Yeah.
She got caught up through love. She fallen after her husband, and now she's, made the wrong decision and she ended up on drugs. But for my abuser, it was like, you are just a monster.
Yeah.
And I want you to suffer, right? I want you to suffer all the things that I went through emotionally and mentally, and even in my own intimate relationships. And when I got past the fact that I did not need him to make me whole through an apology, that's when I started to feel strong. And I just said, you don't need, look how much you have achieved without anyone.
Yes.
Why do you need I'm sorry?
Yeah.
You know that they're sorry. You know that he's sorry, at least by what he did, right? Like, his actions are sorry.
Oh, he's sorry.
But do you really need that? And so I started to think, I'm going to heal on my own, which is strength.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing is that my mom did apologize for what she could, and that was kind of the apology. I'm sorry for what I do and don't remember.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, at one point I was like, no, I want you to remember this. I want you to apologize for this specific thing, because this is what hurt the most. And she just was like, I apologize for everything. And so for me at that point, it really wasn't an apology, because it's kind of like saying, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with my mom, I had to, I guess, accept her for who she was in that moment.
Yeah.
And know that underneath all that was still love.
Yeah.
To her capacity. She was loving me at her capacity. which may not seem like the right amount for me,
Yeah.
but her in that moment, it was the capacity that she could give.
Yeah.
And when I took a look back and said that this lady was loving me the best that she could in that time at her capacity, then I got a little stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was able to forgive her, for hurting me without her being able to fully give me an apology. So that one I got through, but then I was like, I'll never forgive him. He's this, he's that, it was just kind of like, I was resentful.
Yeah.
And it just hit me when I got exhausted with it. I got tired of avoiding him when I would be at different family functions. And I got tired of how I felt afterwards. And I was like, I want to be done with this. I'm done. I wrote out exactly how I felt. And I said, you know what? I forgive him. And I don't need him. I don't need him to say I'm sorry. Because he doesn't have to give that to me. I don't care. I'm strong. And before I knew it, I kept saying it. And then I believed it. And last summer he called me. So I ended up saying I forgive him years ago. And I just felt so good. After I got the therapy about the trauma that was involved with it, being able to forgive him and putting my mind first. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, I'm just going to say it. In my heart, I'm going to say, in my head, in my heart, I'm going to say, I forgive him. I'm good. And that along with therapy, I actually got to a place where it didn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
And I felt strong. I was like, oh my God, when you learn how to forgive someone who has done you wrong without their apology, you're a bad member jam.
You a bad one. And you're right. You're a bad
member jammer. And so he called me last summer during COVID. Not this past summer, the summer 2021.
Okay.
And he said, I want to apologize. And I said, well, I don't need your apology.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fine. And he said, yeah, your mom told me that you didn't need my apology, but I need it. Because see, now he's not feeling whole. Now he realizes,
He
said, yeah. And so honestly, I was doing him a favor by giving him the opportunity and the space to apologize, because he needed to put himself together. And he was like, I need to say this. I need you to hear that I'm sorry. I need to explain how I feel and why I acted in this way. And I thought before, because my mom gave me a warning that it was coming, the call was coming. So I thought, I don't know how I'm going to react to this.
Yeah, yeah.
But as he spoke, that's when I really was tested, and I felt nothing.
And that's when you know, right? That is when you know the work that I have done to get here.
Yeah.
It was a journey.
It was a journey. And it was not overnight, right? Like I told y'all how long I was in therapy, and I had so many, from my dad getting killed to my mom. I had so many issues to talk about in therapy. It was something new every session.
You tested her. She was like, okay, this is new. I never dealt with a client that's so yeah.
Yeah. I put her to the test. I stretched all her educational limits.
She was like, I'm prepared for the next one because I know. I'm prepared.
Yes.
You said a few things. And I have to be really, really transparent in that I had gotten to a place, right? A lot of people think, and I had to come to the realization that I'm not forgiving for them. I have to forgive for me, right? I have to forgive for my peace.
Yep.
And I learned, and I remember saying this at the event, but I also learned that I don't think I fully forgave my mom, right? And so as you talk, full transparency, I'm learning from you because I expected an apology. I know it wasn't her fault that, she did the best that she could with what she had, right?
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in that abusive household, both physically for her, sexually for me, I wanted her as an adult when I said that this is what I'm going to begin doing, right? I'm going to begin speaking and coaching. And her response was, if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it hurt. But also full transparency, my event was the first time she heard it. First time ever. And I had to ask her multiple times if she would come. And she was like, well, it's such and such coming. Yes, my cousin is coming. I guess I'll come. That hurt like hell.
Mm-hmm.
It did. But I then had to realize that I can't expect someone to love you beyond the capacity in which they were being loved, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yep.
So I love her to pieces. We're amazing. But I have to love you in knowing that you did and are doing the best that you can. And I don't doubt that she tells me all
Yep.
of the time.
Yep. She's
But I
loving at her capacity.
absolutely.
She's loving at her capacity, and it might not look like what we love at, because we're loving at our capacity.
We do. We do.
I'm loving at a level of a person who's been through years and years of therapy and who's done the work.
Yes.
And
yes.
so if you have someone who has a lot of trauma who hasn't done any work, they're going to love at a whole different capacity.
Absolutely. And so many times I think we want to blame the individual that we are seeking that apology from.
Mm-hmm.
But like you just said, ask yourself, right? You got to forgive for you.
Yeah.
Do the work. It's hard work. It's an ugly process. I always say healing is ugly as hell. That journey is ugly as hell.
Yes, it is. It's
to be
ugly.
able to sit in it.
It's hard.
It is.
It's frustrating. You have to create boundaries that you've never had to create before. It's scary.
Yeah.
When I finally told my family about the abuse, it was very scary because, they felt like they had to pick sides, and I felt like they should have. Right. Yeah. And, it's always scary trying to get to the other side.
Yeah, it is.
But sometimes you got to leave people back there.
You do. Not everybody can come along with you.
No.
You have to be able to decipher who.
And what was my turning point?
Go ahead. You were gonna. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, and sometimes that could be a mother. It could be a predominant family member in your life, and doesn't mean that you will never reunite with them, right? Yeah. They might have to go through a different way to get to the other side and meet you on the other side.
Yes.
But they might not be able to walk the exact same journey you going to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And that was me and my mom. Right.
Yeah.
And so I had to go ahead and just decide, like, I cannot keep dealing with this relationship the way that it is. This is when she was in the midst of her abuse. And it was I was just traumatizing myself, basically.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get to the other side. I'm still trying to be successful. I'm still trying to graduate law school or college, And I finally just put those boundaries up and said, no more. I'll see you on the other side. And she made it to the other side, but it took her a different route. We weren't walking side by side. I had left her back there. And then when I looked up, there she is.
You were there. She was
I made it to the other side. Yeah. Yep.
So what would you share with that woman who is struggling with, I got a couple questions, who is struggling with, I had a child at a young age and I'm never going to be able to live out my dreams. And then that person that is just simply struggling with trying to figure out what to do first in order to begin their journey of healing.
So the person who's saying, I had a child, I'm never going to be able, you have to stop listening to the lies. You've been filled with lies. And that could be from what society has told you. That could be from what you're telling yourself because you're embarrassed that you made this decision and the daddy ain't in the life, or, it's just, you could be full of embarrassment. I was full of embarrassment. And so I kind of minimized myself. I kind of dimmed my light because I didn't think I deserved it. I was still punishing myself from something I did years ago.
Yeah.
So you cannot continue to listen to the lies.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to come to the terms that I am still great.
Yeah.
So many people have made this bad decisions, but they're able to hide theirs.
Yeah.
I just couldn't hide mine because it was a human.
Yeah.
But I want you to first stop lying to yourself and
Yeah.
saying or letting people convince you of these lies that you cannot be successful.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are so many people like me who had
Mhm.
that baby at a young age and who decided, okay, I'm gonna figure it out. I got to get out of this, and who climbed out that hole. That I'm not the only one on this planet that's done
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
You know, I posted my journey on TikTok, and if they want to go on my TikTok and read
Yeah.
all these comments from these teenage mamas that are now doctors, nurses, own
Yes.
businesses, it
Yes.
can happen. So
Absolutely.
get out your own way. I'm gonna
Yeah.
talk hard to you. Get out your way. You're in your own way because that's a lie. Just because you had a kid does not limit your capabilities at all. It makes it a
Mm.
little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
You gotta reconstruct your journey, your game plan,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean the game's over. You're
Yeah.
still in the game.
Say that.
And not only
Yes.
that, your child deserves it. Because if
Mm.
you give up, what you leaving them with? If you
Yeah.
just sit here and say, well, I once wanted to be this and I had you, first of all, that's trauma to your child.
It is.
Mama couldn't be what she wanted to be because of me.
Mm.
Do that. And secondly, you need to prove to your child that when a person makes mistakes, it does not have to end their destiny. It does not have to stop
Yeah.
their success. And so
Yeah.
when you get up and you say, yeah, I had you at a young age, but I kept going.
Absolutely.
That's what you need to
Absolutely.
do.
Look, when you said human, let's talk. Let me take it back for a moment. Let's talk about what that human is now doing, because when we talk about Black Girl Magic and the things that both Judge Kelly's doing and her amazing daughter, who is also a soror, let's talk about
Yes,
what she's doing.
yes. My daughter, I mean, that is one of my proudest moments in my life. The
Yes.
fact that she did not become a teenage mom, because statistics says she was going to be a teenage mom too, due just to my doing what I did. We passed that statistic, and that
Yeah.
used to be our conversation. We're going to beat the statistic, Janae. Let's beat the
Yeah.
statistic. And
Yeah.
she used to always say, yeah, we're going to beat the statistic, right? But not only did she do that, she graduated in high school with honors. And not only did she do that, she went to Howard at HBCU
Oh
and
my.
graduated. And not only she did that, she went and got her master's, and now she is a licensed counselor. And she's counseling teenagers. I'm just so I'm over the roof happy for her. And it just goes to show that, people always talk about you need a dual family household to raise successful, children.
Yeah.
And although I do believe it's better to have both parents
Yeah.
in the house,
Better, but
she shows that that's a lie. There's another
yeah.
lie that people tell you,
Yeah.
right?
It's not
Because
easy.
it was tough, but look at
Yeah.
her now. She's 28 years old. She has her own job, own car, own place,
Yeah.
and now she's a counselor. Her dream job. So
Wow.
that's
Wow.
my little human.
Right. And it shows you, I gotta say it again, it shows you what, when you've gone through something, right? It teaches you how to be a mom, right? We don't always perfect it. We're never gonna perfect it.
Right.
It's not a book, but we take what we have done and learned, and we're able to pour it into our children so that
Yep.
they can become successful humans, right?
Mhm.
I'm so doggone proud to know you. I'm like, my kids might come in here in a minute, like, what you yelling for? I tell you, it's amazing. It is amazing. So she is amazing, like her mom is. What are your because I can keep you here for a couple hours, but I'm gonna understand that you got to get up in the morning.
Yes.
But what are your parting words?
My parting words is my favorite. I say it's my mantra, but it's really one of my favorite quotes. And that is, people do what's important to them.
Mm.
Do what's important to you.
Yes.
And although you might not know exactly how to get there immediately, start with the small step. You know what you need to be doing to do the work.
Yeah.
I probably need some therapy.
Yeah.
I probably should be doing this. I probably should be talking to this person, or you know yourself. We know, and we keep it in the back of our head, and we're like, well, I can get to that therapy when I ain't got time. I gotta do this. I gotta do that.
Right.
Do what's important to you.
Yeah.
Because everyone in your life around you, they're doing what's important to them. And you need to watch that.
Right.
Because sometimes that will be a clear sign. Like Maya Angelou said, you may forget what people say, but you're not gonna forget how they treat you. You need to make sure your circle is airtight.
Yes.
And watch how people are around you. Everyone is doing what's important to them. And
Mm,
if you do what's important to you, not only will you succeed, but you will be happy in life.
I love it.
That's my parting words.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining me on Tish Talks again. Latisha B. Russell, trauma informed coach, speaker, author. I really appreciate you joining today. Have an amazing night. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye.